The new multiracial Spider-Man appears in the comic Ultimate Spider-Man, which is actually set in a different alternate universe than that of the real Spider-Man, who still exists and is still Caucasian.
Hi YouTube, welcome to the Anti-Racism Academy. I'm Brandy Blacker Anderson, and I'm a triple Ivy League educated lawyer, teacher, activist, and the mother of an adorable 3-year-old named William. If you have kids or work with them, then you're probably familiar with the comic book, film, and game character Miles Morales, aka the Black Spider-Man. And you've probably purchased or are thinking about purchasing the new Spider-Man Miles Morales video game for PS4 or PS5. Well, this video is a follow-up on our video on how to analyze kids' content for racial bias. This video is the first in a series of anti-racist media literacy reviews where we look at books, characters, films, games, and other forms of children and young adult content to determine whether they promote racism or anti-racism. This video will be broken into 4 parts. First, I'll provide a brief history of Black comic book heroes. Second, I'll discuss Miles Morales and his origins. Third, I'll talk specifically about Miles and whether he's an anti-racist portrayal for kids. Finally, I'll give a rating out of 5 Power to the People fists for how anti-racist this character is. The first Black comic book hero to hit the scene was Lothar in 1934. Lothar was featured in the Mandrake the Magician series. The character was depicted as a large, indestructible black man who spoke little English and served as the main character's servant. 1940 saw the introduction of another black character, Ebony White, who served as a sidekick to the Spirit. Alternatively, in 1947, All Negro Comic No. 1 was published out of Philadelphia as the first comic book written and illustrated solely by black writers and artists. Starting in the 50s, white comic book creators started making more socially acceptable black characters. In 1954, the character Waku, Prince of the Bantu, debuted. Waku was an intelligent leader of his tribe and defended his people from danger. 11 years later, in 1965, a black cowboy named Lobo got his own comic book. Influenced by the civil rights movement in the blaxploitation film genre, many black heroes were created in the 1960s and 70s that are still popular to this day. Brian Michael Bendis and Sara Pichelli wrote and illustrated the Miles Morales character, which debuted in the 2011 Death of Spider-Man storyline in Marvel's Ultimate Universe comics. In this series, Peter Parker is killed, and Miles, a 13-year-old from Brooklyn, is also bitten by a genetically altered spider and takes Peter Parker's place. It's unclear what makes Brian Michael Bendis qualify to tell the story of a black boy from Brooklyn. Although Bendis has publicly expressed the importance of diversity and inclusion with characters of color in comics, he himself writes Miles as a character who's uncomfortable with being the Black Spider-Man. In Professor Donald Boggle's book, Toms, Coons, Mulattoes, Mammies, and Bucks, An Interpretive History of Blacks in American Film, he argues that mainstream media often portrays black characters with no cultural identity. While the characters are presented as black on the surface, they are expressed predominantly in a white cultural context. Miles' character in the comic book falls victim to this phenomenon. This is especially a missed opportunity in a country where mothers of black teenage boys can't send their sons to the store, park, or playground without fearing for their lives. Alternatively, Miles' family history is fraught with negative racial stereotypes and other dog whistles. According to Bendis, Miles comes from a line of criminals, dating back to his grandfather. This family's past gives Miles reason to question whether criminality is hardwired into his DNA. According to the comic, Miles' grandfather was such a bad dude that Miles' father refused to give Miles the family last name, opting instead to have Miles carry his mother's last name despite Miles' parents being married. And did I mention Bendis named Miles' dad Jefferson Davis? Not helping the situation, Miles' dad is usually portrayed either as a police officer or as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. When you combine the historical relationship with police officers and people of color and the character's name, it seems like this is all an attempt at sabotage. Overall, I would give the Miles Morales character a 2.5 Power to the People fists out of 5 for this anti-racist portrayal. While Miles is no Lothar, some of the author's decisions rob the character of his full potential to promote anti-racism. Some other major takeaways from this analysis are for parents and teachers to recognize that just because a piece of kids' content features black characters or characters of color doesn't mean that it's necessarily progressive or unproblematic. View character names, traits, and plot details through a critical lens to check for subtle forms of racial bias and stereotypes. And seek out authors of color to tell the stories of characters of color. If you'd like to learn more about how to analyze kids' content for racial bias, I've included a link in the description box to download a checklist for what to look for. If you think more content like this should exist on YouTube, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. And remember to power to the people, fist bump the notification bell so you can catch all our latest uploads. I've been your host, Brandy Blocker Anderson. Thank you so much for watching.